Good morning. Whoa. Good morning, everyone. Oh, woo. It's nice to be awake on a Tuesday morning. I'm excited to be doing this. So this is episode 3 of the Go Viral haircutting series. This is kind of getting more and more fun for me every day. I'm really enjoying learning about video work and taking time to sort of teach in a vacuum. This is a much different experience for me. So I appreciate everyone who's watching these at any point and hopefully getting some benefit from them. I definitely am getting benefit from making them, so thank you. Sorry, I'm still trying to find the best light, especially today because we're going to be starting to do a little bit of work on a mannequin head, and then that's going to be evolving into a little more work on a mannequin head tomorrow. So we'll see. Hopefully this light works. I'm trying to find a space where I can be set up. We talked about that on Friday, having your own space. My house is really small and there's 4 of us here every day. I have 3 kids, one who's a toddler, and so trying to find everyone their own space to work, and so that it's not super noisy is not the easiest thing. So you may hear some of the kids kind of running around. This week they're on spring break, so they don't quite have as much work to do or to keep them busy, and that's why the time keeps changing. So I apologize that there's inconsistency in the time, but all of these videos are on my YouTube channel under the Go Viral series, so you can find them there. They will be there for an eternity, so you can watch them at your own convenience. And again, as I said yesterday, I'm just trying to really build these into short foundational lessons, things that you can be practicing at home, where you can really kind of get one big takeaway or one big aha, as it were. So there can be more videos to come to break other elements of what we're talking about down. There's obviously so much to haircutting and so much that we could be talking about. And so please message me with questions, ideas, comments. I would really appreciate and enjoy that. And I would love to hear from you. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about combs and sectioning, which to me is kind of the big undersell in haircutting. It's something that, of course, we talk about and we learn because it is very essential to being able to complete a haircut. Using a comb and being able to section the haircut is rule number 1. That's a big part of the technical strategy. Yesterday we talked about design objective technical strategy and buy-in. Even though sometimes sectioning can get very loose or we can maybe not be using our comb as much, it's fair to say that it's pretty difficult to complete a haircut with any tool without the use of your comb and some sort of section, right? But it's the big undersell, I believe, because we don't spend time, or oftentimes we don't spend a lot of time talking about how to hold your comb and how to section with your comb in a way that's really effective. Also efficient. It can help with your efficiency. It definitely helps with your efficacy. And really the using the comb and sections is exactly like loading up your GPS. Now I know I love to not use my GPS because I love old school maps and I love to be on a little exploration and journey every chance I get when I'm in my car. But the reality is that if I'm not using my GPS, it's probably going to take me longer to get to where I'm going. And the journey might feel beautiful and fun, but also can be really stressful because at times I'm maybe going to be lost or very much lost, right? And when we're working in the salon, which we already talked about, this series really being about practicing and preparing to go back into the salon and really improve ourselves on that end so that we can feel really great when we go back. We don't have time to be exploring most of the time. I mean, every once in a while that can be great, but efficiency is really a huge part of what we do and is a really big factor in how we actually earn our money. So it's important. It's important to be efficient. I also think that being able to section for me, and this is really very personal to me, when I'm combing and sectioning hair, it's really a time for me to plan and think and strategize. So I have often said, we have a very difficult job because what we do, we are our artists that are curated on the 45 minutes, which means we are being asked to, we are artists who are commissioned on the 45 minutes. So we are being asked to make something that is artistic and structural every day. And the person sits down in our chair, and from start to finish, we have 45 minutes to complete that when we're talking specifically about a haircut. Maybe an hour, and some people are doing it in 30 minutes, which is incredibly fast to me. So I had a friend many years ago who graduated from art school. She's still a friend. Wasn't a friend many years ago. She's a friend now, and is still alive and very healthy, I hope. But one of the things that she said to me a couple of years ago was that when you're an artist, you have the ability to step away, maybe go hide in a closet or in some attic somewhere, as I think many artists that I know have worked, and work on your piece and start it, stop it, start it over, completely destroy it and rebuild it as many times as you want. And then you get to come out and then present it when you feel that piece is ready and it's finished and it's been edited and you've thought about it and stepped away from it. We don't have that luxury. And even chefs who are artists, who are commissioned in a very short period of time, they have a specific menu that they design and they curate and they think through and then they prep, and it is, for the most part, the ingredients and the roadmap is ready to go. And for us, we don't have to have that either. So we are working in a very short period of time, and sometimes we don't have any of the prep or any of the forward thinking beforehand to really understand or have a clear roadmap of what it is that we want to do and how we want to get there. We're sort of under the gun at all times. So there are lots and lots of ways to overcome that and strategize around that. So I'm not saying that this is the only way. Obviously, working in systems is what I recommend most often, and having having foundational methods for how you choose to get done what you need to get done is incredibly helpful, especially when it comes to the system of a haircut. So the process of cutting a bob or cutting a short shape. And we spend a lot of time coming up with those templates and those systems. I don't think we spend enough time with this kind of very fundamental tool. So that's where that long little lecture is going about the comb. So really spending time working with your comb for me gives me time to sort of slow my thinking, take my breath, and really plan out and sketch out, so to speak, what it is that I want to do. Okay, so that's just kind of the big overall conceptual thinking of why I think combing and therefore sectioning is an important part of the work that we do. But let's kind of break down the comb very basically. This is a comb, this is a YS Park comb. this is the comb that I generally like and a lot of people like. One of the things that I will say about combs, just in general, as hairdressers, we like to talk about tools and what is the best tool. A lot of times we talk about scissors. We love to talk about power tools. Sometimes I feel that we don't talk enough about combs and finding the right comb for you. A comb is a place where I feel I would invest the most money that I can. I feel that this is my most important tool. I'll use a less expensive pair of scissors. I'll use really, really inexpensive clips. But the comb, I feel, is quality cannot be sacrificed here. The way the plastic is made will sort of work with and grab the hair in a way that's far more effective and efficient, as we talked about. Also, I believe in a really, really sanitary practice, which I feel like is kind of a moot point right now because we all need to believe in that. But I do make sure that I sanitize every tool that I use after I use it on one guest. And so these get soaked in very, very powerful chemicals that can break down the plastic. And a higher quality comb will stand up to that wear and tear and still function just as well after even, I think this comb is years and years old. I think this particular comb is like 10 years old, to be honest. Okay, so that is just a little side note about investing in higher quality combs. And message me if you have questions about where to get these. There's lots of places and you can order them online. So that wouldn't be a problem if that's something that you want to do right now. Okay, so the anatomy of a comb is pretty simple. It has a spine and teeth, and then some of them are just built a little bit differently. So this has a skip tooth here. You can see there's one shorter tooth, and this is the area of the comb that I often use for sectioning. It also has, I would call this not wide teeth, but like a medium teeth section, and then a pretty fine tooth section, okay? They come in all different lengths. This actually has kind of a measurement key with the holes here, so you can start to think about the distance that you're working, your guideline, by using those holes as well. But there are some combs who have different versions of that, so if you can see really closely, this has markings, and this is also a very, very, very fine tooth comb, so you can barely see through it. The teeth are so fine, so this is actually the wider section, and this is the finer section. And then you can go all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum where this is very, very wide. It's kind of a thick, dense, fatter, it's got a fatter spine. The teeth are a little bit wider and denser, and then something that's a little bit more in between. So this isn't quite as large of a comb, but still has sort of those wider teeth. And I mean, we can go on and on all day. There's lots and lots of different versions of combs, but the fineness or the width of the teeth is really one of the more important factors. We're kind of working with, we are working with the tension on the hair at all times. So that's one thing that we wanted to talk about today. So we're going to talk about the comb. We're going to talk about the tension of the hair as we work with it. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about our section, the direction of our section, and how that's going to influence the hair. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, the comb itself, the tension on the hair, and the section or the direction of the section. Okay, so I generally like a comb that is split between medium or wider and relatively fine, okay? And my recommendation is to hold the comb right in the center. So I like being able to build as much geometry into my work as possible so that I can be aware of where I'm at in reference to the head all of the time. So if you watch me work, you will see me square up my chair, make sure that the guest is sitting squarely in the chair, that their shoulders are even, that their head is straight forward and upright. And so one way that I can help build that geometry into my space to be able to see what I'm doing is making sure that I'm holding the comb with as much balance and symmetry as possible, okay? So I anchor my thumb right in the center of the comb. So one activity that you can do in order to get more comfortable working with and holding your comb is to practice a skill called windmilling. That was the word that I was taught. So you're just taking your comb and you're using your middle finger to flip it around from wide teeth to fine teeth. Okay, and so if this is not something that you're comfortable doing yet, you can pick up any old comb, anchor your thumb in the middle, and go ahead and practice your windmilling so that you can very easily, without thinking, get from the wide teeth to the fine teeth. So the analogy with a comb a lot of times is that it's like a pen. And so you want to get really comfortable holding it in a fine grasp. You'll notice that I'm holding it on my fingertips, okay? And I'm not using all 5 of my fingers to hold my comb. I'm not using all 5 of my fingers this way to hold my comb. I'm actually only using 2, my thumb and my pointer finger, okay? Can you see that? And so then I can use my other 3 fingers to help kick the comb around, all right? And maybe these fingers are resting gently on the spine, but they are not holding my comb. So think about it. I have a toddler, and a lot of times when she picks up her fork and her spoon right now, she's got all 5 fingers on it, and she's giving it that good old monkey paw grip, but it makes it really hard to actually use the spoon in an action or use the fork in an action so that it's effective, because you have to use your whole arm. If I can get her to drop down into her pincer grasp, she can drop her whole arm and elbow, and she has a lot more leverage to be able to use the spoon and the fork the way it's meant to be used. It is exactly the same with your comb, okay? I want you to focus on that pincer grasp of just using your pointer finger and your thumb and anchoring them right in the center, okay? And then when you're sitting around and you are blowing through an entire series, I highly recommend Hunters, you can practice windmilling right from the comfort of your own couch, which, you know, you're probably spending a lot of time there right now. Okay, so that is windmilling, and that is your comb grip. All right, so the reason that we want to fluctuate between wide teeth and fine teeth is because we want the ability and the capacity to adjust our tension at all times throughout a haircut. And that's something we're going to be talking about a little bit more tomorrow when we actually start cutting hair on the mannequin. Sound good? Okay, so next we are going to talk about just the actual process of combing. So I've got my Josephine doll here. Let's see if we can get it so that you can see. Square it up. I think this might be a little too... Okay, I think that's pretty good. You can see her pretty well. Get the distracting china cabinet out of the way. Okay. I think when I don't stand in my other window over here, you have pretty good light. Okay. So, hi, here's Josephine. All right, so we're just gonna practice some basic sectioning rules, okay? So the first thing that we wanna do is get our comb into its basic grip with our pincer grasp. And a lot of times when I'm in the salon, I find just breaking the head into quadrants, so kind of from the nose of the front of the hairline, down in through the nape, down in back here, let me turn her all the way around, down in through the back, and then going from ear to ear. And the ear to ear parting in particular can mean so many different things. It can mean in front of the ear, behind the ear. I don't want to get too deep into this, but what I want you to be thinking about as you're doing this is breaking the head into quadrants is a really great way to start to understand the bone structure. It really starts to give me a feel or an understanding of what's going on with growth patterns, what the bones look like, how those two things are working together. All the while, I'm kind of marrying that to this design objective or this idea of what it is that we want to create, okay? So we're gonna practice that sectioning because one thing that I wanted to do in this series was get you really kind of doing the same thing over and over so that you get really great practice, okay? So here's an important thing with our comb. When we are combing the hair, the comb is really what allows us to have maximum control. And in order to do that, we need to get all of the hair that we're combing into the comb. So I still remember when I was in beauty school so long ago, I had an amazing teacher and she always talked about the distribution of the hair in the comb. Always, that's all she talked about was, are you distributing the hair? Are you distributing the hair? So what you need to understand when we're talking about the distribution of hair is that we need to make sure you're actually grabbing the hair with the comb and you're getting all of the hair that you want to be combing into the comb. So sometimes that means you're getting everything, and sometimes that means you want actually less and you don't want to grab everything, okay? So when we hold the comb, when we place it to comb, we want to place it perpendicular to the head or to the hair. We don't want to lay the comb down. So if you can see when I do this, if I grab the hair, some of it's coming and some of it's falling out. If I turn the comb, can you see upright? And I grab the hair and scoop, I'm getting way more hair this way, following the head shape, okay? So when I go like this, I don't necessarily grab as much, it's all collecting together, but if you can see closely, I'm really only grabbing that top layer of hair. A lot of this is staying down, right? Like this, okay? If I grab and I turn the comb at 90 degrees again, I'm grabbing, actually I'm not grabbing as much hair anymore, but you can see it's gonna grab way more hair. And you can actually feel it when you do that activity, okay? So we want the comb to be turned at 90 degrees or flat towards the teeth, flat towards the head when we're combing, all right? We're gonna grab in our pincer grasp, and then I'm gonna recommend you do one of two things. You sort of start to think about having a guideline for your comb. So I like to use my pointer finger on my opposite hand and place it where I am going, okay? So let's say I'm gonna stand from behind here just so I can demonstrate this. I'm gonna place my comb on the head, okay? You can see it's at 90 degrees, and I've got my pointer finger there, and my comb goes directly to that finger. I can grab hair from both sides and we can separate the hair, okay? So we're gonna do that again because that was a little bit messy. I'm gonna comb this out. So I've got my pointer finger here, all right? I'm gonna place the comb in at 90 degrees, right at, I'm starting from my apex. I'm gonna work my section to my pointer finger, and then I'm gonna grab with my thumb on the other hand and pull opposite direction. So my comb goes one direction and my opposite or left hand for me goes the opposite direction. And now I have a pretty decent section that I can comb from to really have my, you know, my first level of sectioning. All right, so we're gonna do that one more time. Grab the hair. That time I used my middle finger, not my pointer finger, but really it's pretty much the same. Grab with my thumb and separate. When I go into comb after I've separated the hair, I am lining my comb up right with the section that I have created, okay? And so that way I've got all the hair pulled to two opposite directions, and you can see that's how you get a really nice clean section, okay? So we're gonna do that on all effectively 4 areas of the head: the top, the back, and from ear to ear, okay? Comb this away. I'll comb the hair down. Make it easier for you to see. nasty one in there. All right. Okay. So you can see her nose and here, her face. I'm going to start right at the high point of her head, which I can see from standing behind. And if you want, it's going to be a little bit harder for me to demonstrate this because I have a table in my way, but if you want, you can stand to the side, hold your comb in your pointer grasp, and it might be a little bit easier for you to section that way. So again, make sure when you go to do that section, this is where people get kind of stuck in this flat comb sectioning. Make sure you're rotating your comb up so the rotation of the teeth are facing down to the head. Okay, my pointer finger is right where I'm looking to go. Let me make sure that's actually in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to grab with my pointer finger and my thumb. It's actually going to work the opposite on this for standing from the side. And then my comb is going to pull the hair towards me. I'm going to comb each section away from the other. All right. So I have a really nice clean section there. You can see, right? Okay. Now, if you want, again, you can stand directly in the back, place your comb in back at the apex where you started your last section, or if you would like to stand off to the side, you can do the same, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And when you're standing to the side, it does make it a little bit harder to see if your section is straight, so I would highly recommend using a mirror if you have one available to you. The nice thing about sectioning on a mannequin head is you have the pivot point. If you have a pivot point mannequin, it's got a line right in the back, so you can just place your finger right above that. There's a little mannequin sheet for you. All right, make sure I like it. I guess you can't see me. Why don't I turn this around? There we go. So here's my pivot point. Okay, place my finger in there. Go right down. Again, grab with my thumb and my pointer finger. My comb goes the opposite direction. We are combing the hair from the section away from each other. Now, the sound of the plastic on the mannequin head is really never lovely, and it's not something that we want to teach people to get in the habit of making that sound, because it probably means that you're using too heavy of a hand on your guest. But when I'm practicing this technique, I actually like to hear that sound because I want to know that you are applying enough pressure that the comb is really reaching all the way down to the scalp. There we go. Going right behind the ear. Now this may seem like a very, very foundational thing to practice, but I will tell you, in teaching classes for as many years as I have, this is a lot of times something that people still need work on. And it's something that we can all still really train on, making sure that we have good control of the hair as we're cutting it, and really making sure that we have a really strong relationship with our comb. It's like being an athlete and needing always to continue to do these same repetitive exercises to help build that muscle memory. So if you've been cutting hair for many, many, many years, please do not feel like this activity is something that wouldn't benefit you, because I do feel strongly that it can benefit really everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this hair into a Zulu knot so that when we're done, I can take it off the stand and show you what your sections want to look like. So this is my last section. I'm making sure they're balanced from side to side. I'm working a little bit faster now, but still using the same technique. I'm in my fine teeth right now so that I can get a really nice, clean, tight section in my knots. So the thing that is so important about sectioning is we're learning to get more comfortable doing this with a little bit more of a, I would call this, you know, a very confident, clean approach, is that our sectioning yesterday when we talked about elevation, our sectioning is really going to help us determine the elevation that we're cutting the hair at. So when we talked yesterday about our hands being low and being at more of a 0 degree or under 45 degrees of elevation, those are oftentimes going to be more horizontal sections. And as we start to move up in our elevation, we will find that as we work more vertically, that our elevation is going to be more of a layer or a 90 degrees of elevation. Hi guys, I'm gonna wave because that's fun when you're live. And so our sections, we can help sort of build in the intention that we set in our technical strategy by mirroring it in our sections. So it's a really fun way to create a design, to think through your hair cutting approach. It can be almost sort of mathematical, if you will. And I really enjoy cutting hair that way. So we're going to be talking about that as we get more into actually creating a haircut and putting some sections in. But as we think about our elevation, we don't just need to think about it from the geometry of the hair and how it's coming out. We can also be thinking about the angle of the spine of our comb. And is it more horizontal? And as it works its way up to being more vertical, this would be more of our 90 degrees of elevation, more of our layered approach, which is going to give us more of that free form, more texture, increase in natural texture, less control to the hair. And as we creep our way down, we're going to be more in that 0 degrees of elevation, lots of strength to the geometry of the haircut, lots and lots of control, lots of shine in the hair. Okay, so here's 0 degrees, here's 90, and everything in between is going to be our graduation, which we can sort of cut halfway at 45 degrees and say everything lower is going to be a little more structured and heavy, and everything higher than 45 degrees is going to mirror that layered approach of having a little bit looser, lighter, softer, free-form texture. Okay, so that is really the 3 most important things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the anatomy of a comb and how they are built to function. I wanted to talk a little bit about the anatomy and a lot more about how we hold our comb. That's really the big, most important lesson. So holding it, anchoring into the center of the comb, and practicing that windmilling of turning the comb around at 180 degrees, and then a full circle is 320, right? 360 degrees. Sometimes during this quarantine, I feel like my brain is just kind of turning to mush. That's why doing these videos is so helpful, because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, is my brain atrophying as I'm spending all this time at home? Okay, so turning the comb 180 and then 360 degrees to be able to quickly get from your wide teeth to your fine teeth and vice versa, okay? Then we talked about how to actually section and control the comb. So when we're holding it in that pincer grasp, how to place the comb against the hair and get really great control. We talked about sectioning and using 2 hands, so creating a guided section. So using one finger on one end, kind of combing towards that finger as a guide. The other thing that some people can do, I guess I didn't say, is that some people like to place 2 fingers on the comb and work your section that way. So if that's a little bit easier for you, that's fine. It's both are great. Of course, you can DM me with questions, or you can message me a video if you have a question. That works great. So then we practiced putting in our 4 basic quadrants. You can see we got really nice clean sections. I went ahead and Zulu knotted them up with clips. So here they are. They're a little bit crooked now that I'm looking on the phone since I didn't use a mirror, but still pretty good. And now that you're going to be so efficient at sectioning, you know you can just take that down in a quick minute and make that little adjustment right there, and you'll be well on your way. Last but not least, we started off by talking about the big philosophy of sectioning and using it as a period of time in your service experience to really build some intention behind the work that you're going to be creating, really thinking through that technical strategy, what you want to be doing for that haircut, and how, specifically how you're going to roadmap or diagram that technical strategy. Gives you kind of a quiet minute to think through the process. So from a service experience, I would say when I'm sectioning hair, you will find if you ever sit in my chair, we'll be chatting and gossiping and catching up. And then as I start sectioning, I'll oftentimes say, okay, I'm gonna just take a minute here and think through your haircut, or let's talk about your haircut for a minute, or it really brings in, for me, it's the moment where I really get focused on what is it that I'm going to be doing, and more specifically, how am I going to achieve what I want to be doing. Okay, so that is a little bit on combs and sectioning. I will see you tomorrow. We're going to do our first long layered haircut. So it's not a shag, but I'm really excited about the process of these haircuts because the section mirrors itself for every single haircut. So basically, you can take the same sectioning pattern, you can practice the sectioning pattern, you can practice your sectioning, and you can build a haircut that goes from very long, very commercial, very beautiful to something pretty aggressively short. We don't section a bald fade, so that is not at all what we'll be doing for the bald fade, but through most of the haircuts, the section's really gonna mirror itself. So I hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be on at 10:30. And I look forward to seeing you then. If you didn't catch this whole video, you can access it on my YouTube channel. There is a link up in my bio, so connect with that. This is the 3rd in the Go Viral series. I hope that you're doing well, staying safe, and feeling healthy. See you soon. Take care. Bye. I did it again.